So welcome to the node.js and API team meeting for February 5th, 2021. We'll follow our standard approach of looking at what we've tagged for milestone 11. I will bring that up and share, but before I do that, does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share?
Nothing here.
Okay, so let me share my screen, or that's these thing. Everybody should be able to see that list of issues now, is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so first one is rename primary branch to main. I think the last thing that was left was updating the references, and I think Jim, yeah, you submitted a PR, and I landed that yesterday. So
Yeah, so I think on that repo we are completely done on that one.
okay, so then in terms of other repos, I guess the question is that would be a good one. What other repos should we update?
I would recommend examples next. That will probably be pretty straightforward to do.
Okay. Remaining repos include, let's just make a list of all of them just so we can, so this is node add-on examples. Are there, what other, probably some of the other ones that we've created already are, but let's take a look. Actually, I have a list, there is a list in the node issue, so let's look at that. Rename, is that gonna find that? No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Issues, rename. Right, this one. I just generated a list the other day so we can kind of go through and see if there's any others that are in the scope of this group that we should update. I assume everybody can see the list that I'm scrolling through now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Just yell out if you see one that.
What is that nappy test suite?
Yeah, that's one I think we created it at one point to potentially separate out the test suite. So let's go and look at that one. If I spelled it right, that would help, wouldn't it? Yeah, so this one basically is empty. So I'm going to say let's just do it right this second. Unless anybody has any concerns.
Sounds good.
Maybe a reminder we haven't made as much progress on that one as we wanted, but anyway, that's a separate issue. So let's that one. Okay, note down examples. So that one we've just talked about quickly. So I'll just make sure. Okay, we got that there. Scroll through others. Okay, I don't see any others in that list then. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can basically just say it's that one repo. And I guess if we look at that, I know, Jim, actually, you've already looked at it, right, a bit. Do you know what we need to update? In terms of, I'm just looking through, like I know we had to update some GitHub actions in the previous ones, but I don't see anything in there. Okay, so this one would need to be updated.
Yeah.
for the website publishing, right?
Yeah, and that's the workflow I created.
I guess I might as well just. Let's see what else. There
I'm
is
gonna
a,
open up my. I'm sorry, Michael.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna open up my fork here and just do a search for master.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
Oh man, there's there's that workflow, and then there are links. Master appears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in 8 places, and like 6 of them are documentation links.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to take a look at that, Michael.
Okay, that sounds good. So maybe I'll we'll take a look and update. Okay, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So I think anything else on that one before we move on?
There's a no. No, I was confused on a different issue.
Okay, so that's great. Thanks, Jim, for picking that up. Let's move on to the next one then, which is renaming an API to something more appropriate and descriptive. So there was, I know Gabriel has started making some changes and stuff. We did have a short discussion at the TSC meeting. There was some concern over the Node API as the name. But I think the key thing we agreed there was that we're going to work on changing the docs and the sort of surrounding stuff, but not necessarily change the symbols themselves or the path. If there's paths that have an API in them, and the thinking along the lines which I was kind of raising was, if we clarify enough other places that an API is Node API, and given that NAPI, the association suggested, is not as strong as some of the others, that might be good enough. And nobody disagreed with that in terms of the technical steering committee there. So we figured we'd make those changes first and then see if anybody felt we needed to go further.
Okay, that's a relief, because I had been looking at some of the tooling I had done, and the that string NA API as a symbol is like pervasive, and
Right.
it would be a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best we could have done is likely to duplicate all the symbols, right? So we could make the symbol, have a second set of symbols, but we couldn't get rid of the old ones. And yeah, so it's not necessarily, yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's kind of like, if we go that far, at least in my opinion, it's in this specific case, it's probably the right thing to do, and just to leave it at that. And we'll see once we get there if we get any complaints.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes. On this issue, Michael, I think I added some other questions maybe farther up.
Right, yeah, okay, right.
So do we want to just go through these and see where we're at?
Yes, why don't I can edit that. So I think it's like yes.
Okay.
I think this is what, Gabriel mentioned he had already started to use Node API instead of NAPI for new symbols, but not necessarily, right, for existing symbols, it's going to be leave as is.
Okay.
I think this is like the API docs. Would you have, what locations? That's not a simple, it's either like the API docs or something more specific to all the sections, right? I'm not sure how to answer that one.
Yeah. Okay. We can just leave that for now.
Okay. So I would just say like update wherever possible. What locations of similar repositories like Node need to be updated? I think Node add-on API client. The other repos. How about that? Node.
Yeah. So while I've got the examples open, should I look at renaming the text in there, Michael?
Yeah, I mean it's in the docs. I maybe make it a separate PR just to keep it, rather than mixing things if somebody comes in and starts a conversation on one versus the other. But yeah, like if and what I had in mind was in the text, like obviously if the symbols aren't changing, we can't change the references there, but in the text where we refer to like an API, we can just change that to Node API, right?
Right.
And new headers repo. Right, those ones, I guess then those like node JIP and node pre-JIP are outside our org, right?
Let's see. Let's look at node JIP, which we should probably be calling node GIP. No, node GIP is under the under node.js.
Okay, so
maybe what I can do, Michael, is put another comment on this issue that lists the places where the documentation may need to be addressed.
Okay.
And that, just like we did for the renaming master domain.
That sounds perfect. Okay. Because I think it's good to sort of think about all those and have that list. That's perfect. How these updates be accomplished? We can PR them.
Yeah. So, Michael, before we talk about this, I'll just give some background on my thinking here. So, there's like an entire universe of documentation and posts and blogs and so forth that are like the wider community. And so, like, we have what we've referred to as the NAPI resource, for example, which I will rename.
Yeah.
Do we want to, the first question is, should we mention that this was previously known as NAPI so that when people are first coming into it, they realize, oh, all of this body of work that's outside of our control actually refers to the same thing?
Yeah, I guess we're hopefully not going to be breaking any links, right?
Right. But just in the narrative. So for example, I will update like the tooling that I've done. There's documentation on the README that, so I should at least update the documentation, renaming it from n-API to node-API. But I feel it would be important to put a note in there that said this is the package previously known as NAPI.
Right. Yeah, I wonder like how confusing. I'm kind of like hoping that because NAPI was Node API, it's not really a change, it's just a clarification.
Yes, true.
Like kind of trying to say it's the same thing, we're just using the full name instead of the shortcut.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to but there is still the possibility of confusion like you've got, right? So I kind of want to avoid the, hey, it's a rename, it's a big deal.
Right, okay.
And sort of if we can handle it through the, hey, we're just clarifying because there was a potential for confusion in terms of what it meant.
Uh-huh.
And so I could see, like, it's Node API, we could have, like, in quotes, also sometimes referred to as an API, or,
Uh-huh.
I don't know what's the total right answer there.
Uh-huh.
But I was thinking it hopefully isn't such a big change, like, especially if we're not changing the symbols and all those other things, right?
Right.
And I wouldn't go and change, like, the links, the links. So not breaking any of the existing links and documentation and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Um, okay, maybe it's not necessary to refer back then. In the when people read through, they start seeing the symbols. They'll see the NAPI, so then they might make
Right.
that mental jump. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So really, we're not gonna do outreach to the wider community.
Yeah, that's my take. It's like, I don't, something like that, with a big thing that says explaining why we're doing and whatever, can often generate, like, negative arguments and discussions. And so my take on these things, it's better to, it's respect the concern, but if we can just sort of do it in a way that doesn't stir up more and also doesn't confuse people, that's our best bet. So.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very good, Michael.
And if we start to see, like, people are confused and, like, say, hey, what, maybe we'll have to change your mind, but it's a good way to start, right?
Okay.
So maybe it's like, plan is to frame this. That seems reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. Great, Michael. Okay, that's really helpful.
Okay, that's good. Anything more on that one before we move on?
No.
Okay. Next one is submission for OpenJS World. So thanks, Jim. You put together an outline.
Yes.
I made a suggested update. Go ahead.
Yeah, I liked your edits on that, Michael. Those are really good.
Thanks.
Now, my next step is to make the submission, and so typically the way it works is I put it in, and then I can mention that there'll be co-presenters. So I thought it would be good to have an outline or work on an outline, and then see if there are team members who would like to volunteer for particular sections. Then when I know who's going to be doing sections, I can put their names in on the submission.
Okay. Now I think you'll only be able to add one additional speaker.
Okay. Officially.
Yeah, officially. Like when we record it, other people can help out, but especially since it's going to be pre-recorded, whoever wanted to help could probably help. But yeah, if in the submissions, I've made a few. And it does have an option for an extra speaker, but only one. So.
Okay. So who should that other speaker be?
That is a good question. Like, I don't know it's kind of come like I liked your approach of whoever volunteered for sections, right?
And even though I can only officially put one on, I can also mention the other team members if we know who they are.
Yeah.
Or I could just say generic, other team members.
So I'm going to say not me, because I've made a bunch of other submissions. And I know they're only going to take so many for so many people. So
yeah,
it's better if I'm not on there. In terms of who's here, is there, people saying, hey, like to be on the submission?
I could join.
Okay. So I'll put Kevin as the second.
Sounds good.
And then do we want to look at the outline to see if it makes sense?
Yeah, sure. I've got it there.
It's essentially lifted directly out of the paper.
Yeah, was there even, I wonder if there was an option. There's no workshop option. I don't think. Yeah, no, I don't think so. So yeah, it's just a talk.
Uh-huh. So
I
for
wonder
example,
if you know, even just a very, well, I guess into the introduction, you can probably already cover like what is an add-on, and then maybe even like what is NAN and what is Node API. Would be a good, like, you know, short intro, just as the context in terms of like, hey, if you know how to do native add-ons, and it can kind of be, and the way that's recommended now is Node API, right? And you got your, yeah, I think the multi-threaded context sensitivity, additional helper methods. These are kind of like what's new. Let's see. Yeah, that looks reasonable to me.
Okay. So I would definitely do the building section.
And I know you've done a bunch of work on the multi-threaded side of things, right?
Right. That would be my comfort zone.
Yeah. And I think with a little bit of help, you know, to cover context sensitivity, I'm sure Gabriel could provide a couple slides that, you know, wouldn't be too hard to talk to. The additional helper methods, I don't think are too hard to cover. So I think the hardest ones are the building and the multi-threaded ones, which you two are well positioned to cover, and the others, I think the rest of us could help.
Yeah.
Get a couple slides that, you know, either we can have other people jump in to cover those, or even, you know, help you to get comfortable. So I don't think it'd be too bad.
Okay. The submission is due the 15th, so we will have one more team meeting between now and the 15th. So should we wait till next week, or should I just put in the submission?
I'd be tempted to just put it in.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense, Michael.
Yeah, I'm always like, do it now versus having to remember about it and talk about it again, right?
I know, I am the same way, Michael.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just didn't know if there was any other things we needed to think about. Okay, so I'll get that in this week.
Sounds great. Okay, so let's just look to see if there's any others. Okay, so stale issues. Let's then flip down and look at some of those. This run in node thread, I know we had a little bit of discussion on that, but I don't think we've progressed to the point where we can talk about it again, right? Yell if anybody disagrees on that front, and I'll go back. Alejandro, you said you were going to take a look at this one. I don't know if you've had a chance.
I haven't investigated too much, but I will comment on that.
Sorry, you will comment. Yeah, still looking at this. Just okay. This one. Okay, we'll skip that one until we have Nicola back. So is that all the issues we had in there? I think so. Okay, that's good. Tracking issues, Nappy Nim, that was a while back. We could just flip over to the...
I believe I have submitted a new node crash on Node API.
Sorry, a new which?
a new crash on Node core in Node API.
You mean an issue?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just flip to that in 1 second. Just going to quickly look. We see the upward trend is still progressing. This little dip here is I mean, that was like across all modules, so I don't know quite what went on there, but it's good to see the upward trend is still going.
Yeah.
And actually yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just amazing to see, Michael.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's flip back. There was one in here, this one, which is related to that. So I think we should, so Legendicast, we'll just come back to yours in 1 sec. This one is related. There was a PR that basically, or not a P, yeah, I think it was a PR that was suggesting we slim down the files that we ship. And it's with the comment that since there's like 3.5 million downloads a week, our packages currently ship quite a bit of things that you don't necessarily need, like the docs in, an actual deployment.
I sometimes personally find the published docs might be helpful since it can be checked down by the IDE or editors locally that we can, since we can check down to the node API.h or node API.inl.h locally, and we can find that there is a directly named doc, and we can just dig into that. Sometimes that might be helpful, but I'm not sure it's necessary to publish it to the NPM.
Yeah, that's kind of where, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it or not? Because there was one other comment that was like, hey, it's still sometimes to have the other things there too. But I don't know, I can certainly see the point that as more and more downloads happen, the size does potentially matter. And you can get the docs by cloning the repo, right?
Yeah, we can get the docs online, but it just somehow helpful if we just install the package and we can find docs in it. So somewhat helpful, but I'm not sure it's necessary since we can already fetch that online.
Yeah, because most of the space is probably the docs, right?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I don't know quite how we decide what we think is right here.
We could go with this, Michael, and then just see if people say, hey, what happened to the docs?
It's true. I'd be okay with that, I think.
Yeah, I am okay with not publishing the docs. I just mentioned that it might be helpful.
Okay. Discuss on an API meeting that we. And I guess the index should still be there, right? Because shouldn't that index, if I go to NPM and we
I
go
found
no,
that somewhere we have a reference to the index in index.js. We can require
right.
the node add-on API and get the path about the required paths in the node add-on API.
Right. So yeah, like the docs are still directly linked from the npm to the GitHub repo, right? Okay. Well, that sounds like a way to go. Now, did I? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to discuss commented in issue closing. Okay, right. So, Lucinda, which issue was it that you thought we
I
should go
believe it's
to?
on the very top of the core repo.
Okay. Issues.
It's the first one.
Oh, there we go. Okay, right.
Yeah, it only happens on finalization and occasionally, but it's crashing for the double free or via
Okay.
import ref base. So it only happens if the like say NAPI wrapped object or NAPI create reference object being GC'd after the add-on instance data, or like say the NAPI env of the module have been destroyed. So
Right.
the case is very obscure to reproduce, but I managed to make a reproduce to force the program to crash in the case, and it's all valid to use in with Node API.
Right. Okay. I see. So here's your.
Yeah, it's a very simple one.
Okay. We should possibly add that to the test suite, right?
Yeah.
And I guess this is, so it's basically you need to be using a thread, right?
We don't need to use this thread. We just use the necessary API to reproduce is the NAPI wrap
Okay.
or NAPI reference.
Okay. So it's on shutdown, I assume.
And yeah, it only happens on proper shutdown of the program.
Okay. I was
So
thinking
it
maybe
had
like,
goes,
sorry, go ahead.
it had go through the proper shutdown and not the process.exit, since process.exit will immediately exit, and
Right.
there is no GC after process.exit. So
Okay.
it must happens after the add-on EM in have been destroyed and there is a GC on the object.
Right. Okay. So we've still got some, like that cleanup of the env goes through and tries to free things, and something's not being taken out of the list properly, I assume.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll need to, yeah, if we added it to the test case, like if use your test case and add it when we have the fix to whatever the PR that goes in.
Yeah, I believe I will be free tomorrow, so I can submit a fix.
Okay.
If I
That's good because
can.
there have been some intermittent failures in the regular CI. Like, Kevin commented on one change that he made recently. There was in the lint in the GitHub Actions, there was a failure. And it was kind of a crash after the tests were run. So it could actually be related to this.
Yeah, I have noticed some of the crash, and so I think that might be related. It's
Okay.
hard to track down since this crash is not immediately happens, and
Right.
it just drag randomly on the GC finalization. So I just have luckily to find out the reproduce.
Right. No, yeah, it's great if you've got a test case. That'll make things a lot easier for sure. Okay, any other ones that people want to call out? In terms of we can look at. I don't think these are none of these are particularly open or new. Let's look here. Right, that's related to renaming. I don't think anything that's too new. There is one I'm looking at, which is related to, haven't had enough time to really look at it, but there was a change in V8 that's causing problems related to like NAPI ref and NAPI FFI, which are some modules that use Node API. Or yeah, but I'm not sure there's anything we're going to be able to do about it, but I'm just trying to understand a little bit better what's going on there. It has to do with how V8 handles buffers, and it seems like in the past you could have two buffers pointing to the same like memory, like physical memory, but today if you do that, it throws an assert saying, hey, wait a sec, you can't have two backing stores pointing to the same thing. And then that has some follow-ons because it's almost like it's you know, if something uses that memory but then gets freed, but the GC or hasn't figured out that it's freed yet, and then you do another allocation and get the same address, it can run into problems. So that's, I don't understand it well enough to really fully explain it, but that's what I'm looking at because it sounds like quite a few people are, or more than a few people are having a challenge with that. And in fact, one of our internal teams is having a challenge. So I'm trying to understand a little bit better what's going on that front. Otherwise, that's on the plain Node side. On the Node add-on API side.
If I understand, if I get it correctly, so it's related to the duplicate packet stores. So
yes,
if I'm not sure if we can cache the packet stores in Node core and just not recreating packet stores for same actual backing buffer stores.
right.
So that
yeah,
they will not complain on that. And since
yeah,
backing stores are shared pointers,
yeah.
we can check on this.
Yeah, I haven't had enough time to dig in to understand whether, I think it's more subtle than that. I don't think it's that just that that like I think it may be that like we've already stopped using it, and it's just that the GC, so like the memory's actually been freed, but the GC just hasn't figured that out yet, kind of thing. It sounded to me like it had to do with possibly with the what callbacks we have in terms of doing finalization and that kind of stuff. But that's exactly what I'm trying to understand enough to know if that kind of suggestion is going to work or not. Or I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, maybe we can have a issue that we can discuss on this.
Yeah, there is an open issue for it. I don't know if we want to create a separate one, or let me find that one. I will go back to. It might be good to have a one where just we can discuss, but let's take a look here. So this was backing. It's actually quite an old one. Let's see, node pref. Okay, where is this?
Is
Right, this one. And then this goes to this one. So I think this is the, is this the issue? Yeah, so this is the issue, but it's closed. So maybe I'll grab this one and I'll open an issue in our repo where if we can both talk about it, it's probably a good idea. Actually not there, no API. So I'll create that one. I'll tag it for the milestone. Does that sound good? And then so if you have a chance to look at it, you can comment in there, and I'll do the same in terms of what I kind of learn or don't learn.
yeah, great.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's go to node add-on API. So in terms of issues, I guess there's some that are very new. This one I know, Kevin, you opened an issue to PR to fix that, right?
Yes. Everything was pretty much documented in that talk.
Yep.
There.
I think, yeah, that one's basically ready to land whenever I get around to doing, or somebody gets around to doing the next set of landing, we can just land that one.
Yep.
So thanks for diving into that. Otherwise, don't see too many new ones. Any other ones that people want to sort of call out that we should discuss? If not, let us go back to here. Actually, where am I? Milestone 11. Okay, so I think that's this one, sorry. Right, this is the one I just created. So I'm gonna just move that to the beginning. I think that's what we had on the agenda to talk about. Anything else we should talk about before we close out for today? If not,
nothing.
thanks. Sorry, go ahead.
I have nothing, Michael.
Okay. Okay, well, if not, thanks for everybody's time, and thanks, and we'll talk to everybody next week.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Mm-hmm.
Bye.